All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
So I'll answer the question right at the beginning of the show. Yes. Yes, the truth, of course, the truth matters. Even if it only matters for history. I'm going to be on the right side of it, and so are you. I'm going to lay out for you today just a little sliver of what we have coming up over the course of the spring and summer. The shows we have coming up are going to put together the pieces to you, pieces for you, how you've been misled, how sections of this so-called movement have been carved off and isolated out or are now working against us. We're going to start, because they want this, of course, we're going to start showing you who they really are. So at the beginning of the show, I'm going to lay it out for you. And of course, we'll bring actual data points. We're not just going to talk about data points. We'll actually bring data. And you'll see how the greater network is working right now to kick you right in the nuts. It's going to be pretty hard to refute because we have actual data points. Yes, the truth does matter. This one's going to rock your boat a little bit, so get ready. Today's show brought to you by All Family Pharmacy. All Family Pharmacy lets you plan ahead with medication shipped right to your door so you don't have to wait for them. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Bongino. Learn more. Pick up medications you need today. Don't wait. Use code Bongino10 to save 10% on your next order. Prescription provided. Thanks, All Family Pharmacy. And today's show also brought to you by American Financing. You have looked at your credit card statement? I have. You're working 40, 50 hours a week just to buy groceries and gas, things you used to be able to afford just ordinarily, and the credit card companies are charging you over 20% interest for the privilege. Think about that. Over 20%. It's designed to keep you financially underwater. American Financing is doing something they hate. They're actually helping people. Credit card companies don't want that. They have mortgage rates in the 5s. They're showing homeowners how to take their hard-earned equity, use that hard-earned equity to wipe out that high-interest debt. The average savings is $800 a month. That's not small. Talk to a salary-based mortgage consultant. No upfront fees. There's no obligation to see how much you can save. And if you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments. They're America's home for home loans. Give American Financing a call. Here's the number. 888-994-7660. That's 888-994-7660. Or visit them online. It is a .net address. AmericanFinancing.net/Bongino. AmericanFinancing.net/Bongino. Let's get this little fiesta started. Okay. People want to play? Let's play. We love to play. We've been playing a long time. It's been like 10 years or so. But we're all America all the time, so we're going to defend this place. I want to show you this first. So this happened. You know Jeremy Boring from the Daily Wire? He's got a new show out there. I've met Jeremy. He's always been very nice to me. So Jeremy interviewed Dennis Prager. Now, Dennis Prager has been an intellectual scion of the conservative movement for a very long time. I wish him the best. He had a terrible accident. I wrote about it. I covered it on the show. He came close to death. So you can see his voice is a little strained in this clip. The clip's a little over 1 minute and 30, but it's worth your time. Folks, we are in this really, really perilous spot right now that is important that we expose so that you, the rational actors out there, can put together the pieces yourself, where you've got very charismatic people who are gaslighting you from inside our own tent and lying to you. Now, Dennis Prager's asked a pretty simple question. You know, what worries you most about these people? Isn't the truth eventually going to set us free? Well, I hope it does. But he says, I'm pessimistic for one reason. I want you to listen to this exchange. It's very important. It'll set up the whole show. Check this out.
How do we evolve as a society? Because, you know, without that editorial architecture that used to exist and that had become bloated and had become corrupted, and had in many ways sown the seeds of its own destruction. Nevertheless, can a society exist with this level of radical atomization in regard to moral and even factual judgment?
I do believe in the final analysis that the good argument will prevail. but it may not prevail against a charismatic non-truth teller. That's my biggest worry, is the charismatic, where people will follow an individual because they love him or her, irrespective of what he or she is saying. I mean, to be precise, you know Candace well. I know Candace well. She was deeply involved in your life. And before that, in my life. And I got to tell you that people are not appalled at her attacks on Erica Kirk and TPUSA is very sobering.
Yeah, Dennis, it's very sobering for me too. You have a young widow. Doesn't make the death of your husband, by the way, any easier at any point in your own life. However, they were just beginning. Got a widow, Erica. You've got children who have no father now. We're going to have to watch this forever. And you've got demons pretending to be part of our movement while a trial's going on, sowing chaos out there. Ladies and gentlemen, if this was ever a Manichaean fight, if there ever was one, this is it right now. I want to show you Exhibit A in this, how when you bathe in chaos and worship the god of illusions, and you sit there in the Tower of Babel, creating basically your own language of bullshit and false information, how no one can communicate anymore and the whole damn thing collapses. You've seen this playbook before. The enemy of reason is chaos. The ally of reason is order. Rules, a rules-based system on logic. When you sow the polluted field of information with bullshit, eventually everybody's confused and no one can communicate, and you get things like this. I want you to watch this. This is Jesse Ventura, former wrestler, former governor of Minnesota. Many of you know who he is. Some of you younger folks may not. Was a big cultural figure, went into politics later. Jesse Ventura went on Piers Morgan's show, which has become like, I don't know what is, a cesspool for lunatics. He goes on the show, and this is what happens when you bathe in chaos and you never produce actual data. You get moments like this where Jesse Ventura says publicly on Piers' show he doesn't believe the assassination attempt and murder scene in Butler, Pennsylvania with President Trump and sadly Corey Comparator. He doesn't believe it happened. This is a hat tip, Maze Moore. First, you're going to hear Jesse Ventura, and then you're going to hear Corey Comparator's daughters talk about losing their father. This is the craziness we're bathing in right now. Check this out.
When he got shot, he got back up, said fight.
Oh, yeah, right. You ever hear of a blade job?
A blade? What, you think he was fake?
Anyway, I don't know. Where's his scar today?
Somebody died, literally, sitting behind him.
I don't know. You know, come on, Piers.
I was the one that my dad threw down. As he was throwing me down, that was when he was shot. He ended up falling onto me. I was like confused and I went, "Dad." And when I turned is whenever he fell down, and that's when I started screaming, and I was instantly like, I was trying to keep him from bleeding, and somebody had thrown down a towel. So somebody behind us must have seen what was going on, and I was just holding it there and just screaming for anybody to help.
His family wants Comparator remembered as more than the person killed in the assassination attempt of the former president.
2 others were shot during the rally for former President Trump back on July 13th. James Copenhaver and David Dutch. Both of them are still recovering from their gunshot wounds.
I thought it was a hoax, Jesse. I thought it was a hoax. You think Corey's family feels the same way? You think the family of the other 2 victims feel the same way? You think the other victim, President Donald Trump, feels the same way? Having to think every day if he had just turned his head 1 more degree to the right or probably even left, he would have been shot either directly in the face or in the cranium. You ever ask them if they feel that way? Folks, I know this is not the most pleasurable topic to talk about every day in the show. I get it. I understand. But I've been doing an enormous amount of reading secondary to the show on how this type of embrace and love affair with chaos amongst a group of basically cultists, how it metastasizes into larger and much more horrible things. And I've said to you from my first day back, we're not going to be any part of it here. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that this cancer is cut out. Folks, how does this happen? How does it happen where the charismatic leader, and this is the part I don't want left out of this, because you may say, Dan, okay, it's fairly obvious that Donald Trump came within millimeters of losing his life. Mr. Comparator was murdered. There were other victims in Butler. It's fairly obvious this happened. Like, only an idiot thinks it didn't. Only an idiot. You think Jesse Ventura, this guy was the governor of Minnesota, you think this guy is the only one who believes this? How the hell does such obvious bullshit start to fester? It starts to fester because people who've built up a relationship with their audience and have manipulated their audience through the years use that charisma to feed them bullshit like Butler was a hoax. And folks, this can go on forever. I shouldn't say this can go on for a long time. Well, Dan, what breaks the fever? Typically what happens with these lunatics, I've told you the Morton Downey Jr. thing, is they have to keep saying more and more hysterical things before they say something so hysterical that even their hardcore believers start to question if this person's being genuine or just genuinely full of shit. Morton Downey Jr., famous TV show host back from my day, used to do crazy stuff on the air. It's alleged he was involved in some race hoax in an airport, carved some swastika in his skin or something, they'd said in some media reports. That was it. Never heard from him again. Eventually, people just give up. The break happens with them and it's over. But to break that fever takes a long time. The best we can do is stand for truth and keep that lodestar focused on the truth and not the sideshow bullshit and the latest thing. I'm going to show you this clip because it's probably one of the most important clips we've ever played in the 10 years or so we've been on the air. It's a shortened version of Yuri Bezmenov, who was a KGB Soviet Union defector to the United States, explaining this cult-like behavior and how both an ideology and a person, when they have the right delivery system, ideology, person, delivery system. Ideology, person, delivery system. Once those three things combine, it is really, really hard to break people from the bullshit spell. Once they believe in these charismatic leaders and their crazy ideas, Butler didn't happen, all this other crazy stuff, it's very hard to break the fever. Here's Bezmenov describing how this propaganda campaign works. Check this out.
Demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically, America is stuck with demoralization. And unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism.
Critical takeaways from that video. That video is magic because every single second of it is true. This is a big demoralization exercise. I've told you that. That's what blackpilling and dooming is. The president sucks, but he's just stupid. Everybody's screwing it up for him. The purpose is a demoralization exercise. Despite the facts that this has been probably the best year of any Republican presidency we've had in maybe 50 years. It doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. This is not an exercise in fact. It's an exercise in freaking demoralization using Soviet propaganda tactics that have been, sadly, tried and true. Bezmenov is correct. The Morton Downey Jr. moment does not happen until the communist boot kicks you in the balls and locks the gate behind you. It doesn't happen. These people will not wake up. I don't want you to think this is going to be an easy fight, but it's a necessary one. Because they will wake up. But it's going to take that boot Bezmenov talked about. And you don't know what that boot is. Is it some video of one of their heroes caught on camera saying, some thing that's absolutely crazy? I don't know. Maybe it shows like this because I have actual data. All of our opponents out there keep talking about data points. You got all these data points and all this other stuff. And they never produce actually data. They have a point. They have a point they make, but the point's not backed up by data. So we have some actual data, receipts, whatever you'd like to call them, to show you that when you get a charismatic messenger with an ideological cause who then has a delivery system, whether it's social media or whatever, ladies and gentlemen, you can get large swaths of people to act in like cult-like activities and believe things that are obvious bullshit, so much so they will ruin their own lives over it. I want to show you what I mean. The charismatic messengers out there now, who are very charismatic, I give them credit for that, and I don't mean that in a nice way, but it's true, want you to believe that you should support them going forward. So they need the coalition of MAGA people, but they don't need Trump. So as I've been telling you, they invented this narrative you're going to see, okay? So this is the bullshit narrative they need to get out there. That's the ideology. It needs clever, charismatic messengers and a delivery system. The idea that Donald Trump is a nice guy, he's just too stupid to be president, and a layer of people who you trusted can't be trusted anymore. So trust us. That's the narrative. Just keep it as gatekeeper theory. Donald Trump, there are gatekeepers keeping information from him. Come support us. We have the hidden knowledge, right? We have the knowledge they're not telling them. Now that defies obvious facts. People who were working for President Trump and have worked for him like I did have been ardent MAGA people our entire lives. We've been supporters of President Trump. Pete Hegseth, Harmeet Dillon, me, Cash, Ratcliffe. It's just crazy. Well, why do people believe crazy? Whoa, Dan's got some receipts. Yes, he always does, of course. I want to show you this New York Times piece about Stanley McChrystal. Stanley McChrystal, decorated military man. Did that Rolling Stone piece. Didn't quite work out from there. But McChrystal had some serious influence over the military for a very long time. Stanley McChrystal is not a big fan of President Trump. And look at this. Stanley McChrystal, in a recent New York Times piece by David French, who's another anti-Trump guy, what does McChrystal do? He starts attacking Pete Hegseth. As I told you, keep that up, guys, for a second. As I told you, here's the gatekeeper theory again. Attack all the people around, and this McChrystal thing is going to be relevant in a second, so stay tuned. I promise I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. Here's McChrystal, deep body of experience in military intelligence. I'm disappointed by the current atmosphere communicated from the top. In other words, taking a shot at Pete. I had the honor and opportunity to serve with some of the most elite forces. People who did extraordinary things, but they didn't beat their chest about it. They weren't braggadocious. That's just not the way they behaved. Well, maybe they should have behaved that way. We wouldn't have had like your DEI efforts and all the other stuff. He goes on, the danger of the verbiage now is as much of the force of an 18-year-old, and it's influenceable. They see and they go, wow, that's the way we ought to think. That's the way we ought to be. We are superior. I thought that was the whole idea of a military, to scare others into believing you're superior. I don't know, Stanley. He goes on, of course, this is an attack on Pete. Then he talks about how all this, all people should look like me would be a disaster. He gets into like DEI stuff. So this is Stanley McChrystal, high-level military official for years, deep body of experience in military intelligence. He's attacking again the people around Donald Trump, the whole idea of Pete, look at it, braggadocious, pounding his chest. Meanwhile, recruiting's at an all-time high. We've had relatively successful military operations now, just under a year, in both Venezuela and Iran by any metric. And McChrystal's complaining, and he's talking about DEI stuff. Now, why does McChrystal matter? There's this PAC out there, Political Action Committee for those on the left. In other words, they do like political action. That's why they're called a PAC. And they focus on defeating disinformation, which, by the way, is typically, but not all the time, used by the left to indicate conservative ideas. That's just their thing. So when you look at the board and who's involved with this Defeat Disinfo PAC that had a operation going against Donald Trump for a while, you notice that it says retired U.S. Army General Stanley McChrystal, former head of American military ops in Afghanistan, is an advisor for Defeat the Disinfo PAC. And notice what it does, by the way. Keep this up a second. It detects communications from President Trump trending on social media and finds the most effective opposing viewpoints. Wow. So weird. Hey, guys, we're just asking questions, right? Can we do that? Fellas, that's the thing now, right? Asking questions? We're just asking. I thought that was a thing. So McChrystal is doing the gatekeeper theory. He's just like basically goes after Pete and the military and DEI stuff. Now pops up and is doing his thing right now. Apparently is interested in anti-Trump Defeat Disinfo BS, an advisor. Well, you're seeing a lot of counter programming about President Trump coming not just from McChrystal, former military intelligence guy and leader in our military, but you're seeing it also from General Mike Flynn's group as well. Yeah, unfortunately. Well, again, we're just asking questions because that's what everybody's doing right now, right? Everybody's just asking questions. Here's some commentary by noted anti-Trump lunatic Max Boot, Commentary Magazine. And Max says, one of the reasons I admire General McChrystal is that he's the right commander to turn around the war effort in Afghanistan. He's not afraid to be unconventional and effective even in doing so. He leaves a few colleagues with noses bent out of joint, and he surrounded himself with similar hard chargers, including Major General Mike Flynn, his chief intelligence officer. We're just asking, everybody's just asking questions now, right? They're just asking questions. Justin, I heard you can do that that's the right thing to do. But Dan, what are you saying? I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you what Max Boot says, that McChrystal apparently is not a huge fan of Donald Trump, military intelligence guy who has some expertise in, quote, defeating disinformation. I guess that's his guy. It was his guy. It's just the data point. But that's actually the point with data. But what are you saying? I'm just asking questions. Everybody said we should just be asking questions, correct? I'm just your rules, okay? Oh, it gets better. Here's a Christian Science Monitor piece here. Flynn and McChrystal. McChrystal describes him as what in the piece? Spring-loaded or something? General McChrystal described, once described by General Stanley McChrystal, talking about Flynn, as spring-loaded, radiates latent energy as he paces the stage in his brown boots. I'm just telling you what they said, man. It's just everybody's just asking questions. You notice everybody likes asking questions until you start asking questions about them, and then they shit their pants like they need diapers, like Ogre and Little Guy and Igor. Start asking questions, everybody starts running. I'm going to take a quick break, but on the other side of this, I'm going to tie this all together for you. Because Alexis Wilkins put out a tweet last night. I saw it when you saw it. Alexis Wilkins is in a relationship, of course, with FBI Director Kash Patel, as many of you know. Just want to put it all out there. But she put out an interesting tweet last night with actual data points and accounts showing simultaneously synchronized little tweet wars going on about misinformation campaigns and how everybody seemed to do it at the same time. Again, I'm not telling you any of this is illegal. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you what Bezmenov told you. At you, there's an op being conducted on you to demoralize you about the MAGA movement because people want to take this movement from you. And once you see it, you'll never unsee it. They're all gatekeepers around Trump. And your saviors, these demoralization agents, have hidden knowledge that they'll tell you for $10 if you subscribe to their podcast. But then they won't actually tell you either. They'll tell you they're going to tell you at another time and then forget about it. Don't fall for it. Hey, when spring hits, I always feel that push to refresh, clean things up, and reset. Funny enough, the upgrade that changed the game for me wasn't some fancy gizmo. It's my favorite thing to sleep on, a Helix mattress, Helix. I've had quite a few of them. I love them. I've had mine for years. They elevate the way you sleep. Sleep is where you clean out the brain. You feel better physically, mentally. You get up the next day ready to tackle the world. You sleep terrible, no good. You're not going to sleep terrible on a Helix mattress. Nights were rough for me. I get really hot until I got my Helix mattress. When I switched to Helix, I took their sleep quiz. You should do it too. You'll get matched with the mattress that's exactly how you sleep. It's fit for you. It's not some random thing. Go take the sleep quiz. It's really important. Within days, everything's going to feel different. The body feels relaxed at night. Mine did for the first time in years on Helix. Now I'm waking up ready and refreshed, ready to take on the show every day. So do it today. Pick up a Helix mattress. You're going to love them. HelixSleep.com/Dan. That's helixsleep.com/Dan to get 20% off site-wide. Right now, go to helixsleep.com/Dan to get 20% off site-wide. Again, that's helixsleep.com/Dan for 20% off site-wide. And make sure to enter our show name after checkout so they know we send you. Again, helixsleep.com/Dan. Check it out. Thanks, Helix Sleep. I did get a good night's sleep last night. I'm feeling pretty good. Now you want to get down and dirty a little more. Again, everyone likes to play games and everyone likes to F around. And then when you start asking questions back, they all get upset. So I think just to recap where we've been, I've laid out to you how charismatic messengers can take an ideology that's a lie and can make it go mainstream with the proper delivery system. What Bezmenov calls in the propaganda space, the professional propaganda space, demoralization exercises. How you can get a bunch of people to believe crazy things like Butler, Pennsylvania was just a hoax. Here's the delivery system component, how this works on Twitter. Again, I want to be clear because I know I'm laughing at these people for, we're asking questions and never giving you answers. I'm going to give you an answer. I'm not suggesting any of this is illegal. It may be if there's some kind of illicit foreign connection and violence. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I'm not making an allegation any of this is illegal. What I'm telling you is it's an operation. an information operation to get you to believe bullshit that has infected a good portion of this movement. It's small, but not irrelevant. Alexis Wilkins put this up last night. I can't read the whole thing, but I encourage you to read the entire thread. It's obviously 13 posts. But in the second one, you'll notice she produces actual data. See, unlike others who keep claiming to have hidden knowledge and data points, they never freaking produce. They never actually produce the data. They just tell you they have it. Here's Alexis saying, hey, I was falsely labeled a Mossad spy in a coordinated campaign designed to basically isolate an official of the U.S. government. She's talking about, obviously about Cash. This is his girlfriend. She was falsely labeled a Mossad spy. Insanity. I don't know what's going on with that. Is there a lawsuit about it? I don't know. I don't ask questions about it. That's her business. She notes once this tweet went out that the operation, 6 chapters in 22 months, the data shows 3.1 million retweet engagements. 80% of the activity was pure amplification. 659 accounts retweeted the same post. Some retweeted 1 second apart. 15 pairs retweeted within 10 seconds of each other. Folks, that's just data. Like, that's kind of strange because she notes correctly so when content spreads organically, the timing is random. People check their feeds at different moments. Again, no one's alleging that this is illegal. We're just telling you what you think is some organic movement that's broken out on Twitter. Butler was a hoax. It's not organic at all. It's a demoralization exercise to make you believe you can believe nothing because everybody's lying to you and gatekeeping information from President Trump. Therefore, this isn't worth voting for. And the hidden saviors are going to come catch you when they expose the hidden knowledge, like the MacGuffin, like the Pulp Fiction suitcase someday later. They open the suitcase. No one knows what's in it, but it's hidden knowledge and it's in the movie. She goes on in her tweet thread. The network has a trail. Oh, look whose name is there again. This network of coordinated social media demoralization and lies. She notes the network has a trail. Catholics for Catholics, that was the event, ironically, didn't Joe Kent just speak at? Lists General Mike Flynn as current senior advisor on their own website. Flynn is the anchor of a digital infrastructure that's been repeatedly activated at every major Republican fracture point. Over 22 months of documented data. The same accounts appear at every chapter. The network does not rebuild between deployments. It just stays ready. Now, she has a tweet up there. Put up this as one more. She has a tweet up there, by the way, in that thread where they actually scroll through all these accounts you can see so you don't get confused by what you're seeing online. Now you know. McChrystal, Flynn, these guys are good at this. She notes Chapter 1, May 2024, 10 days before the Butler assassination attempt, Ivan Raiklin, Igor, former Green Beret, former DIA and board member of Flynn's nonprofit, America's Future. Igor knows that guy. Posts directly to Elon Musk and J.D. Vance. General Flynn would make Trump assassination proof. 166 retweets, 14 tightly clustered time windows, amplified within 1 second. Now you know how it works. See, that's a data point. That's how data points actually work. You notice when you start asking questions, now all of a sudden they start to unloading their diapers. So weird. So weird. They're all complaining. All of them are whining now that they got wrecked. And now everybody knows what they're doing. Again, I'm not telling you he did anything illegal. I'm just telling you, you can believe people who went in there with pure intentions, many of them at great cost to themselves, knew they were going to become targets later. Or you can believe a group of bullshit artists, gaslighters, who make stuff up, feed it into a delivery system that is totally fake and astroturfed, and then we're living the Tower of Babel. Folks, it gets worse, of course. When you want to see some more? Again, you guys want to fuck around? Let's go. Here's video of Alex Jones, another one. You know, Alex, by the way, this guy, you want to talk about a clown? This freaking goofball. I generally avoid this guy and don't mention him much because when I was first running for office, back in, I don't know, was it about 2012 or so, that election right there. I popped on this guy's show, and during the breaks, he basically let you know it was all a shtick. So again, you can believe this guy or not, but this guy who obviously will platform any lunatic who can counter message Donald Trump at this point. Here he is. He has his guest on his show. I'm not going to tell you who the guest is for. I'm going to let you listen to this exchange first about how Donald Trump is really stupid and about the military. Alex knows better, obviously. Alex, he's obviously a military strategist himself. But listen to him. This is how the disinformation works from inside the tent. Check this out.
Trump is under a total psyop. I don't say that to let him get away with what he's doing. That's how he is. He's smart in things he knows, but for people that know him well, he is incredibly ignorant about the military, incredibly ignorant on history. And he just doesn't know, folks. And so they can just manipulate him. And now it's 79. We're not making this up, folks. That's why it's so.
Trump's an idiot, so stupid. He doesn't know anything about the military. Guys, again, all I'm doing is asking questions, but asking questions about your own statements. So Max Blumenthal is a, noted anti-communist. We're the anti-communist. He's an anti-communist. He hates you. Now you'll see how this whole network works. Again, how the disinformation chaos agents all spreading the same narratives about Charlie, about Butler, all of it. All of it. You'll see how they all pat each other's back. And I'm just asking questions why they all seem to love each other. Put that tweet up by Mostly Peaceful Latinas. I love this account, by the way. This is an interesting one. Here's Max Blumenthal, who can't stand Donald Trump, of course, at all. Him, Alex Jones, she knows it's on the account. Take note of how the Flynns cozy up with known Marxists. Here's a tweet by Max Blumenthal taking a shot at Cash. And who's giving the laughing guy more? Mike Flynn Jr. I don't get it. I thought you guys were all pro-America. Hanging out with Blumenthal, who can't stand Donald Trump? Can't stand freedom and liberty? Who else has magnified Max Blumenthal? You see this whole network of people who all attack the people who actually did the work and elevate themselves as the holders of hidden knowledge while dumb Donald Trump was misled by all of us, me, Pete, Harmeet, Cash, all of us. You see the op? Here's a couple of tweets by Candace Owens. You would think gosh, I thought, oh, look, attacking Cash Patel by subtweeting Max Blumenthal. Max Blumenthal, as Cash's credibility goes down in flames over Epstein and Charlie Kirk. Here we go again. And then he attacks Alexis Wilkins, Cash's girlfriend. And Candace chimes in, this is excruciatingly embarrassing. He's a teenager in love representing the federal government. Yeah. It's weird how they all seem to love each other. And they attack the same people every time. Here's another one, by the way, from Candace, another gem. Oh, here we go. Here's the Israeli stuff again. Man, I got to tell you something. For a thing you're not allowed to talk about, these people talk about it an awful lot. Max Blumenthal. It's former Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz declares he won't rule out American boots on the ground. Every U.S. service member needs to see this to understand who's calling the shots. Max Blumenthal is saying Israel is. Candace says, do not join or remain in the U.S. military. Trump has betrayed America and expects you to die for Israel. There is no honor in being led by dishonorable men to your death. Don't join the military. Trump's an idiot. Don't join the military. Max Blumenthal, Candace, Blumenthal, Jones. Wow. It's almost like leftists like Max Blumenthal have successfully co-opted voices you believed were in your tent, infected them with the rage virus, and watched that rage virus run loose in the tent as they're laughing from outside the tent the whole time. Let's throw one more out there just for the event. Here's a piece by Daniel Greenfield. This is really fascinating. Talking about how leftists throw these shit bombs inside our tent and the rightists take the virus from the so-called in the tent people on our side, take the virus off that turd and spread it out within the tent. I want you to pay very close attention to this article by Daniel Greenfield. The headline of this: the left invented the Charlie Kirk Israel hoax to distract from the left's murder. He notes, Antifa has to be laughing itself sick that it's feeding a civil war within MAGA while covering up its own crime. Greenfield's words, hold this, I want to read this. He writes, 9 out of 10 times, the conspiracy theory is the conspiracy. Sometimes there's a 10th, but not now. What's the source for the Israel killed Charlie Kirk hoax that's distracting us from the leftists who terrorize us on college campuses for decades, who harassed Kirk and then finally killed him, Greenfield notes? Who wants us to talk about Israel beyond Trantiva? Yes, people are quoting Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, but Candace's source for this is Max Blumenthal. Max, he notes, is the terrorist-supporting son of top Clinton official Sidney Blumenthal, who encouraged Hillary Clinton to invade Libya to win the presidential election. He's a militant leftist. We're just asking questions. Justin, I was told it was okay to do that, right? What's fair is fair, right? We're just asking questions. Maybe you can start answering some of those questions then. Why you're always counter-messaging President Trump. Why everything's a demoralization exercise. Why everyone's a gatekeeper, and yet you're doing nothing. You think everyone's a gatekeeper. The same people you used to reach out to and ask for favors. You know what I'm talking about. By the way, I'm being very nice here, folks. Notice, I have not taken the next step and released any personal communications. I know a lot more here. But out of respect for people's privacy, I prefer never to do that. These people are full of shit. All right. Speaking of demoralization exercises, I wanted to show you what we were dealing with, too, while we were there. There was a hearing the other day up on Capitol Hill, and to show you why, this is why I get so upset when people don't give you both sides of an argument. This is kind of weird. When we went over there, and when I entered into the FBI a few months in, some people were upset that we didn't fire enough people quick enough, while ironically the left was raging that we were firing too many people too fast. So like both of those stories can't be true. So it's fascinating how now you've got these former guys who you want to talk about being gaslit? Believing in a bullshit narrative. You got a lot of these former agents who are pissed off at the basically transformation of the workforce. We let a lot of people go. A lot of people left, didn't like our leadership. Great. These former agents testifying up on Capitol Hill. I want you to listen to this guy, Chris O'Leary. This is hilarious. Here he is up there like, hey, man, we were like the paragon of virtue. We were never political or anything like that. And I'm thinking like, brother, are you living in the real world? Did you just say this out loud? I want you to show you what gaslighting looks like when it solidifies in congressional testimony, right in front of your eyeballs. Check this out.
The credibility of the FBI, both in court and in the eyes of the public, depends on that neutrality. And FBI professionals understand that their work must withstand scrutiny, not only in the moment, but years later. Allegation that the FBI has engaged in broad, coordinated conspiracies to investigate individuals based on political affiliation or ideology are inconsistent with my experience and unsupported by evidence or reason. Yet the absence of credibility to these claims has not deterred Director Kash Patel from pursuing what can only be understood as a campaign of retribution against his own personnel. When agents and analysts are removed not for misconduct, but for their lawful participation in duly authorized investigations, the conclusion that such actions are politically driven is self-evident. This form of retaliation against the dedicated professionals of the FBI has eroded trust in leadership, damaged morale, introduced uncertainty across the workforce, and disrupted the continuity of ongoing operations. Equally concerning are the national security implications, with the loss and marginalization of experienced personnel.
Okay, this guy's just full of shit. I have zero respect for this guy. I never met him, but he's just lying to you. Your FBI you paid for got rid of a bunch of bad actors. A lot of bad actors left because they didn't want to work there anymore when we were there. Just hit the lowest murder rate in U.S. history, the lowest crime rates in U.S. history. Counter-espionage arrests were up. Counter-terror arrests were up. Interdictions were up. The most wanted list has been nearly cleared out. It's the best year it ever had. You see how, with this Bezmenov-like thinking, though, that these people can be easily gaslit into believing they were the good guys the entire time, that old weaponization crew. This is what I told you I found when I went there. There were the two of these FBIs. There was these guys out in, Tuscaloosa investigating bank robberies and stuff with nothing to do with any of this other thing, went in there to be cops. And in this group of just weaponized dipshits who couldn't get their heads out of their asses, who really thought they were like political bouncers. And no one ever told you which side they were on. This is Bezmenov level thinking here. Massive demoralization exercise. Folks, people are policy. There are no easy fixes to this. No easy fixes. We have to just keep winning. That's the only solution. I'd love to tell you there's some big, complicated tactical plan to changing government and keeping those changes, letting the concrete dry. But we have to continue to win elections or you're going to see more of this. This is Ted Cruz at the hearing the other day, the same hearing, laying out some of the stuff we had to let people go for. And there are investigations on right now that are public. It's not like nothing has happened. You can look it up yourself. It's open source. Here's Ted Cruz laying out what happened that Chris O'Leary, who I've never met before and don't care to, seems to have completely forgotten about. You want to fix the place, then you got to acknowledge, exactly like we did, that this stuff got screwed up. You don't run from it and pretend it didn't happen. Here's the list in case you missed it. Check this out.
Arctic frost is the culmination of a gross pattern of abuse by Democrats for partisan ends to elect and re-elect a Democrat president. In 2016, Obama's FBI began spying on the Trump campaign just a month before Election Day. In 2020, Biden's FBI met with Senators Johnson and Grassley in an effort to throw off their investigation into the now infamous Hunter Biden laptop, calling the laptop disinformation, a claim we now know was false. The FBI went to the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and lied to him in an effort to change the outcome of a presidential election. Democrats for years have exhibited the pattern of abusing public law enforcement powers for the sake of politics.
Notice how O'Leary seems to have forgotten that. He's more upset that these people were terminated, that their jobs were lost. He's more upset about that, and that there's investigations going on into a significant public corruption in an entire portfolio of it. He's upset about that, but not the other stuff Ted Cruz just mentioned. This is what this gaslighting looks like. Believing bullshit, being isolated from the truth because they tell the lie so confidently. Folks, this just broke the other day too. Paul Sperry, again, I'm out now. I get the information like you do. There's a tweet from Paul. He wrote an article in the New York Post about this. Newly disclosed secret subpoena information reveals Director Patel's predecessor, Christopher Wray, signed off on special counsel Jack Smith's spying on Patel's bank, credit card, and billing records, in addition to his emails and texts for 2 years. Democrat judges approved the subpoenas and ordered providers to hide what they were doing from their customer Patel. And you think Cash is the bad guy? Like, there's a reason the Democrats targeted him. There's a reason they're upset about what's going on right now. There's a reason they're potentially violating U.S. law to go and claim they're negotiating with foreign officials behind President Trump. Wow, listen, for as much as I dislike what's going on with General Flynn now, he was the victim of a lot of this bullshit too, especially that fake Logan Act crap. The Logan Act that, you can't negotiate with foreign governments on behalf of the United States. Yeah, fine. Well, what's the negotiation? They hadn't successfully prosecuted anyone ever with the Logan Act violations, but they charged Flynn. Why do I bring that up? People are policy. You elect the wrong people. They're just waiting in the wings to go screw up the government right now, waiting in the wings. Here's this Miles Taylor. This Miles Taylor guy pretended to be a whistleblower. He worked for Trump in the first term. He was like a low-level guy pretending to be a high-level guy. Listen, having been inside, there's the huge amounts of insulation between the layers of government. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. This guy probably didn't know anything. Here he is on CNN admitting something quite strange, and Scott Jennings gives him a look. Did you just say that on TV? Check this out.
Allies tonight even told me in meetings that because Donald Trump keeps shifting his objectives. Who was it? Because Donald Trump. Well, I'll tell you when the president tells us who he's negotiating with.
So you don't. So
when
so
the
you're
president
claiming
keeps
you had
moving
high-level conversations with other countries tonight?
I talk to people from the region all the time.
The
Scott.
region or with the governments?
Scott, here's the point. Here's the point.
Scott gets the joke, okay? Now, I'm not accusing this guy at Logan. Listen, the thing's bullshit. Let's just be honest. I'm just telling you, like, this is exactly the leftist tactics and the bullshit that they pulled against us. And when they do, they're just waiting in the wings to go screw this thing up again. People are policy, man. We cannot go back to the Obama-Biden era. We can't. Once these people get back in charge, they have no lodestar of truth at all. I told you they're Tower of Babel chaos agents. Here's an example. It's kind of weird how the doomers and black pillars are telling you should believe Iran over the United States. That why you would believe death to America terrorists with freaking gallons of blood on their hands and face, American blood over us, is freaking insane. But the doomers are saying the same thing as Obama-Biden deep staters. Here's John Brennan. Now, just context for this clip. They're talking about Donald Trump and the White House's claim earlier in the week that there were negotiations going on with Iran. Of course, because that would seem reasonable, the left had to attack it and say, oh, there's no negotiations going on. This is all a hoax. Here's Brennan talking about that. Notice who he believes and who he doesn't. Check this out.
Like, they are an authoritarian regime who's known to lie. But, like, I'm confused. What is going on? Help me. Calm me down.
Well, I tend to believe Iran more than I do Donald Trump.
Crazy.
Because he could not acknowledge the truth, even when it is, he's slapped in the face with it repeatedly.
Those are the same talking points as the doomer class. Can't believe President Trump. He's really stupid. It's the same exact talking points. By the way, use a Fox News story on that. In fact, there were negotiations ongoing. Like I told you, Trump administration pitches 15-point Iran peace proposal as Pakistan offers to hold talks. What talks? I thought there were no talks. I thought we should take the problem is everyone's dead in Iran. No one knows who's talking for Iran anymore. He's almost been too successful. They share the same talking points. Folks, if there were a Hester Prynne-like scarlet letter marking, not A, but E for evil, it would be chaos. Chaos and they love chaos. Chaos, what happens with chaos? It's the same reason the left likes their little stormtroopers in the street. Antifa, those, some of those paid BLM mobs. They love them in the street because when people see chaos and violence, all they want is order. They just want to wake up, do a hot shower and a meal again, and they'll do anything to get there when it gets bad enough. Remember that shirt we used to have? Is it bad enough yet? They'll do anything to make the chaos go away. That's how you see the rise of charismatic messengers and phony messiahs. That's how you see societal order break down and the banality of evil pop out there. That's how you see it. in circumstances like that. They're replicating the same thing within our tent, this whole chaos atmosphere, where everything, no simple answers to be taken. You're seeing it now. You're seeing it with everything from Epstein to the pipe bomber case to Charlie Kirk to Butler. You're seeing it in front of your face. Chaos is their friend. Here's Andrew Colvett from Turning Point. He's been hosting Charlie's show. Here he is, the co-host, and they're talking about the disinformation festering around Charlie. These are his best friends. They would know him better than anyone. Now you're starting to see how this stuff, this chaos, affects real people in the real world. And I'm not talking about for the better. Check this out.
Some people are so obsessed with these same conspiracies that they concoct for every other thing that ever happens. And so they have to shove it into this one too, because they care more about their conspiracy theories than about the person who murdered my friend facing justice. I am fed up with it.
Yeah, and you should be. And this is, I mean, this is a tough job for us today, to be honest, because this is really personal. I have been open to everything. I think, candidly, I don't get enough credit for even the fact that I shared these group chats in the first place. We shared a lot of information about trans, about Charlie, how Charlie was more concerned about than any other community about the trans coming after him. You want to know the truth? That's actually the truth. I heard over the course of the last 2 years of Charlie's life, probably about 50 references of how he knew that trans Tifa was going to come after him. And he was worried about that. That's the truth. Never mentioned one time about the Jews. Okay? Never once.
Those are only the people who were his best friends. You know how I know that? I think I've told you this story way before Charlie was tragically murdered. My wife is friends with Andrew and was friends with Charlie because she handled all the schedule items. So Andrew would reach out to her. Like, they talked more than I did about events. We've known Andrew forever. Andrew and Charlie were like this. Anyone who knows Charlie knows that. And they were both tall and looked alike sometimes down the hall. Charlie had bigger hair, but sometimes my eyesight's not so great. I confuse the two. You're going to listen to him providing you facts and actual data points? Or are you going to listen to others out there attacking Charlie from the periphery? Attacking his wife, his kids, his family. You're going to listen to him? Remember this Daniel Greenfield piece? I just put it up in the show. The left invented the Charlie Kirk Israel hoax to distract from the left's murder. And what does the piece talk about? Max Blumenthal, who canned his subtweets, who's an anti-communist. We're the anti-communists. He's the anti-communist. He's against us. This is, again, weird, right? We're just asking questions, folks. I heard that was okay. And by the way, we are winning. Here's a big, big positive gold nugget for you right here, showing you that this stuff matters. Remember, in a debate, it's hard to argue with the leftist or the doomer. They've been demoralized. Bezmenov said it. They're going to need the kick in the boot and the door lock behind them before they wake up. Something's going to have to be like transformative in their head that opens their mind. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, folks. But we are winning. Our side is on the side of truth. I can prove it to you. You're not debating those people. You're debating the third person. There's always a third person listening to your debate, online, in the comments. Even when I used to go out in public when I was running for office, there's always someone listening. Even if you can't get through to the doomer or the liberal, you will break through to the third party when you use reason and actual data points, and you don't constantly claim you have bullshit hidden knowledge that you never produce. We're winning. How do I know we're winning? Put up that Eric Daughtry tweet. Because I have actual data points. You can continue to tell us there's going to be a MAGA civil war over Israel and Butler and Charlie. No, there's not. You actually have no evidence of that at all. It's all an op. Breaking, the percent of Republicans identifying as MAGA supporters has just surged to a historic, this says all-time high, fellas. I thought we were told it was an all-time low. After President Trump strikes on Iran, YouGov. Wow. It's a 7-point bump. I thought MAGA was falling apart, was in a civil war or something like that. Folks, all of it is bullshit. There's no MAGA civil war. We have to go out and we have to win elections. I'm going to show you in a second here who we're up against and why this stuff matters. Because if you want to go back to high crime rates, rampant inflation, high taxes, confiscatory wealth taxes, defund the police, men in the women's room, and open borders, that's your choice. This is a republic. But don't make any mistake in your head thinking, oh, yeah, they moderated the Democrats. They're really not that crazy anymore. No, the answer is they're crazier. I got Vince Coglianese coming up in a little bit as well. You know Vince, rumble.com/Vince. He's on every day at 8 a.m., very popular show. He's going to be coming on bi-weekly on Wednesdays. We enjoy his commentary. We'll talk about all of this stuff. He's got a different perspective on some of it than I do. But listen, unlike these others, I like to put it all out there. I wanted to show you this. Here is Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. You want to talk about an absolute zero. Him and Governor Pritzker have destroyed the state of Illinois. Chicago has had his, high crime rates for eons. Thankfully, due to a lot of our efforts to push them to enforce the law, they've done so and had some successes over there. But here is Mayor Johnson on what I'll basically call reverse broken windows. You know, broken windows policing, go get bad guys off the street, even if they do little things because they'll do bad things later. This is like the reverse theory that the jails are the violence. Check this out.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that. And we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
So rather than just poke fun at this idiot because it's easy enough, you can't jail your way out of the problem. Actually, you can. The evidence is there. I'm just here to present to you a contrast because contrasts matter in politics. You have A or B. You have Donald Trump, low crime. You have Donald Trump, low homicide rate. You have Donald Trump, no border crossings. You have Donald Trump, a pretty healthy GDP growth. You know, Donald Trump deposing Maduro, killing the mullahs in Iran. You have that. Or you have Brandon Johnson. Hey, man, we can't jail our way out of this, so we should let them out of jail so they can do the bad stuff, not in the jail, but back on the street again. It's like reverse broken windows. Take all the bad people and put them back out on the street rather than catching the bad people, even doing less bad things before they do the bad thing and putting them in jail. You have a choice. This is their party. This is what they believe. You may be like, oh, that's crazy. That's just this one guy. No, here's the governor of the state Chicago's in, Pritzker, sorry, there were some liberals here, blaming the tragic killing of this young woman in Chicago by an illegal who should not have been here, who's the suspect in the case right now. Here's Pritzker, unbelievably, blaming President Trump, who actually shut the border. Check this out.
There have been real failures. Those failures, of course, extend beyond the borders of Illinois. That's their national failures, a failure to have comprehensive immigration reform, a failure of the president to follow his own edict to go after the worst of the worst.
You have a choice, man. You have a choice. Life's about choices. I told you a lot of these are level 10 decisions. Sometimes there's a level 10 decision where there's a shit answer and a shittier answer. And if you're batting 500, you're a freaking genius. You're batting 300, you're a genius. These are simple. These are level 1 decisions. If we don't do the walk and the juggling of the chainsaws, I told you at the same time, we're never going to win an election again. We have to, because these are the lunatics in charge. Matter of fact, one of them even worships lunatics. We're debating if he was too stupid to figure out what this actually meant. Did you see the tweet by Gavin Newsom? Justin and I are up in the air on this. Gavin Newsom, he could be a sociopath himself. You see him with the picture with American Psycho here? He's like, look, I've been told I look like this guy. The guy who's like a serial killer? This is his tweet. For many years, people have been saying that Patrick Bateman and I look alike. His pics going all over the place. What do you think? I think you're a freaking crazy person. I'm like, maybe he had a no and he's just crazy. Justin's like, I don't know, maybe he's just stupid and read the book and thought it was a story about this guy being like the hero. Like maybe, he says he can't read. He said it over to, then telling you how he reads. Yeah, right? Right. Yeah, oh yeah, he should. Yeah, that's what he could have went with like the Batman thing. Instead, same actor. Instead, he goes with the Psycho. And did you see what happened in California? I'm going to get to Vince after that. You want to talk about the absolute best story of the day? I read this yesterday. So there's a gubernatorial race going on in California, right? They want to have this open debate. And in a debate, you've got to meet these certain metrics. This is the Democrat Party, by the way, just to be clear. Nothing democratic about it. So they want to have this debate. However, you got to meet these markers. So apparently none of the minority candidates met the markers, and the markers weren't subjective. They were like, you've raised X amount of money. In other words, it wasn't an opinion like this guy's good, this guy's bad. So the minority candidates, I guess, even within the Democrat Party, were just no good and couldn't make the debate stage. Put up the Wall Street Journal, please. Now the Democrat Party is erupted because their own California's Democratic crack-up, because their own people aren't donating to their own minority candidates in their own debate. Their own candidates can't make, so they canceled the whole thing. All the Democrats lagging in the polls are people of color. Oh my gosh, it's the Democrats. They're not voting for them. It's not a Republican primary. And like, the event is racist. It's your event. You pick the attendees. I read this story last night. I'm like, do I put this in the show? That's Gavin Newsom's California party. All right, take a quick break. When you get to your good friend, Vince Coglianese, his first time on the podcast since we've been back. We're going to make this a regular thing, so make sure you check it out. I've been asked this question many times. How can I protect my family without taking a life? So let me tell you about Byrna, B-Y-R-N-A. You may have seen some of their latest TV commercials too. I have a couple of Byrnas, actually. They just sent me another one. So let me tell you, I trust it. I love it. Byrna's less than lethal launcher fires powerful kinetic and chemical rounds that can incapacitate an attacker for up to 30 minutes. This gives you time to get away and call for help. Like I said, I have a couple of them. Byrna's new compact launcher is about the size of a smartphone. It's easy to carry. It's easy to use. There's no background check required. The Byrna CL fires at up to 400 feet per second with serious stopping power and was designed to help with de-escalation, not devastation. Byrna is proudly American, assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. More than 750,000 Byrna launchers are already in the hands of law enforcement and responsible citizens. I have them. You want a protection. You want protection without tragedy. If you believe in being prepared and you also believe in restraint, Byrna's for you. Check it out. Go to byrna.com and learn more. Welcome into the show. Of course, a lot of you already know him. If you don't, you should. Our good friend Vince Coglianese. His show is at rumble.com/Vince every day, 8 a.m. Eastern time. He's got a huge audience. They all love him. Vince, great to have you here. We're going to be making this regular. I know I'll be on your radio show. Next Wednesday, we'll be flipping Wednesdays. So it'll be Dan and Vince every week. So, Vince, I like to have all kinds of viewpoints on the show. I learn from other people. Your thoughts right now, what's going on with the whole Joe Kent resignation, the letter, the podcast circuit, the seemingly hyperbolic, fantastic claims that no one seems to be able to prove about how the president was gatekept and dog-walked into a war. Your thoughts on that whole scenario?
Well, I think like a lot of people, my starting thought on Joe Kent was just how much I've liked him through the years. He's one of these guys who was, I didn't know him personally, but I had him on as a guest a bunch of times to talk about, what the state of America's foreign policy was, our wars, how we need to be more careful with the use of American blood and treasure. And few people would know that quite as well as he does, specifically because he lost his wife to terrorism overseas. And he's been very concerned about that ever since. And so when we saw that letter, when he puts that letter out that he's leaving the administration, I had kind of two big thoughts on the subject right away. One was, look, if you don't agree with the president of the United States, the thing we do ask you to do is you can resign. You can resign. Don't stick around and be some sort of like force for nefarious activity and undermining him.
Right.
So get out. So that's a reasonable thing to do. When he releases the letter and basically suggests that it's because he's doing it at the control of the Israelis or anything like that, I think that has the effect that I was cautioning against, which is you don't want to undermine the president of the United States. You don't want to accuse him of anything, especially a guy like this. I mean, Joe Kent clearly said in that letter it was an honor to work for Donald Trump. He liked working for the president, and he supports him. And I happen to think, Dan, that the way that Joe handled in the letter, other than, like I said, accusing him of in any way being influenced by outside forces, was just like, hey, look, I disagree with the guy. I liked working for him. President Trump, his first reaction when he was asked about it is like, I like him. I think he was weak. He disagreed with me on this foreign policy stuff. J.D. Vance was asked about it. He's like, I like him, but he's wrong. He was right to leave the administration because he's not gelling with the president. He doesn't agree. He should go. And I thought all those guys handled it relatively like adults. Like they're like, look, let's not make this into the biggest issue on the planet because we have some huge issues that we have to conquer here.
Yeah, I get it. I just think that kind of like short sells a little bit the gravity of what's happening. I mean, yeah, you can say in a letter, say you're writing a letter to some random person who lost their daughter to a homicide like years ago, and you're writing a letter and you're like, hey, I saw you one time in the supermarket. I found your address. I'm so sorry what happened to you. And it's all great up to then. And at the end, you go, by the way, I killed your daughter. Kind of like the whatever happened before that one statement doesn't really matter. So yeah. I think like when you accuse the president of the United States on official letterhead of being dog walked into a war that will cost Americans blood and treasure, like you said, you should probably back that up with actual evidence, not just assertions of I've seen some things, but I can't tell you what the hidden knowledge is. I think that's kind of a big deal.
Right. And also the public record on President Trump's relationship with Israel works against that theory. So you remember when Benjamin Netanyahu, when the Israelis decided to try and go after a Hamas target in Qatar, they strike a building and the Qataris are completely outraged by this. There were no Hamas targets in the building. Civilians were killed, actually. And as a result, President Trump kind of famously got Netanyahu into the Oval Office and put him on the phone with the Qataris. There's a photo of it. It's President Trump sitting with the landline holding it, and the phone line is extended to Netanyahu. Netanyahu's apologizing to the Qataris on the phone, and the president made Netanyahu do that. So if anybody is kind of exerting power in that relationship, it's the president. And right now, even I'm seeing reports today, Dan, the Israelis are concerned about the fact that President Trump is trying to navigate towards this peace, and they want to make sure that their best interests are represented. But fundamentally, they know that Donald Trump's in the driver's seat. So the public record certainly suggests that President Trump has a lot of power over this entire conversation that wasn't reflected in Joe's letter.
I think you're right. And I think that frequently gets lost. Even when you look at out there in the commentariat, you and I are part of it too, but there are obviously people all along the spectrum with foreign involvements, foreign entanglements. If you're on one side, involvements on the other, you get the point. Even the most pro-Israel folks out there have social media histories going after Donald Trump saying, hey, you got to be more receptive to Israel's needs. So all I'm getting at is, listen, it's a republic. There's a variety of opinions on this matter. It's why I have you on. Even though we work together, we don't think alike on every issue. I don't want to. You're not a robot. But I think it's unfair to neglect that portion of the argument too, that he's a transactional guy. He sees a benefit in using some Israeli military help to get rid of the Death to America crowd. And when that help is done, he's done too. That's just the way he is. That's why I get so mad about this stuff, because both sides have a complaint about it. That's how you know he's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. And look, as anybody who's watched me for any amount of time knows that, my big concentration on our program is to try and cover as much as I can kind of the insanity of the left and what's happening. Certainly as we are all being targeted by their outrages. And that's happening all the time. And there's a lot of fights that we have to have. Obviously, there's massive amounts. You've been covering this in great depth, Dan. There's massive amounts of infighting going on the right, or certainly of fighting amongst people who want to claim the mantle of the right. And I'm not in any way ignoring any of that. I see all of it. And I feel like sometimes for sure that there's an intensity that goes beyond reason, I think, as people are at war with one another. And what I mean by that is, just pause for a moment. I'm asking just people on the right broadly, just pause for a moment and take a close look at what President Trump is actually up to before you assume that he's serving some horrible interest that's against ours. I just think it's crazy how much people will jump to conclusions without actually consuming reality here. President Trump, on the issue of Israel, look, I like Israel. I don't have a religious reason to adhere to Israel. I think Israel's just fine because I actually think that it's better that they protect Holy Land sites. I think that they're a civilized force in the Middle East. I think that there's a million terrorists who've been trying to destroy them forever. And I find something kind of admirable about the efforts to defend themselves and to constantly fight back against savagery. I think that's a perfectly reasonable, and I think that's actually, in many cases, the very common position for most Americans to have on the subject. President Trump is fulfilling, ultimately, in this battle, a promise that's been made for 47 years, is that American leaders would stop this terrorism. And he's been making it forever. From the moment he came down the golden escalator, he said Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. So look, he is really crystal clear on what the goals here are. It's not some big regime change agenda. I'll tell you what, on the very pro-Israel side, there's going to be people who are very angry with the way the president's been talking lately. He's been saying, hey, I want to leave. I'm going to be dealing with an Ayatollah. We're going to jointly control the Strait of Hormuz. Nobody on the super pro-Israel side is going to want to hear the words an Ayatollah is still going to run it. The mullahs are still going to run it. The president's going, I'm dealing with reality. He left the commies in charge in Venezuela, but he's doing it with America exerting immense influence over the way Venezuela conducts its affairs. He's trying to do the same thing, one of the most difficult problems on the planet, in Iran right now. Nobody's going to love it. You love Thomas Sowell, Dan. I know that. Yeah. He said it for years, that there are no policy solutions, only trade-offs. You have to understand there are trade-offs in anything that's worth doing. And the president is measuring those right now, and I think he's fulfilling them as best he can.
You know, I didn't write down a lot of questions because whenever you and I talk, I know it just goes organically in different directions. And you just brought something up. I was covering earlier in the show today, just some of the failings of liberal governance, whether it's from Chicago to the state of Illinois in general, between Johnson and Pritzker in California. And that's the central failure of liberalism, collectivism, and all its different, euphemisms. They call themselves progressives, yet they never actually progress anywhere. Is the idea that anything is free, like there's some kind of a money fairy out there without said trade-offs. And that's what kind of irks me about the whole thing, that if they were just honest with people who are very smart and rational, human beings, when you give them the facts and lay them out without the gaslighting, we're all rational maximizers and will generally make the right decision. We will. We wouldn't have progressed as far as we did above the animal kingdom if we weren't capable of actually progressing. However, they tell you these things and they never tell you the trade-off. They never tell you the old broken windows theory of economics, that, the window gets broken in the bakery, the glass guy comes to replace it. Everybody marvels and they go, oh my gosh, look, this is so great. We're creating jobs. This glass guy gets to replace the glass. But in the end, what happens? There's no value created. It's the same damn glass. The bakery guy who lost his window now has to pay the $500 for the glass, if not more. He's down $500 and he has nothing more than the same damn glass. If you just would have told people the trade-offs, it wouldn't look like job creation.
Yeah, totally right. And here's the good news. I think that Americans are paying attention at levels that we've never seen before. And that's thanks in a large part to social media, independent media, the ability to actually get the truth. And not have the distortion filter of censorship that the legacy media has created for years. There are still some people who long for the days of Walter Cronkite and 3 channels that tell you about the whole world. And the reality is
the halcyon days, Vince.
It's crazy. I just think it's so Pollyannish and it misunderstands history. What you had in those days was what we call selection bias, just a limited array of things that would get to you. And you were entirely at the mercy of the CBS newsroom about what you were entitled to learn. But nowadays, if anything you want to know, fundamentally, you can find it. And Americans are finding it. This is why. So I'm not to introduce an entirely new topic, but I'll just use the Save America Act as an example. Have you seen the polling on this subject? Every American supports photo ID. Every American supports only American citizens voting in elections. Every American supports getting rid of non-citizens on the voting rolls. It's the most common sense thing imaginable. If you just ask them on the street level, do you support these things? It's when political distortion gets involved. It's when manipulation gets involved. It's when people who are lying to you get involved that things start to get muddy. But look, when you know the truth, you're good. And this is why we're fighting for election integrity, Dan, because the left has come to a realization that if winning based on the merits is the standard, the left loses. If winning based on appealing to voters is the standard, the left loses. So what do? They rig elections. You can't appeal to voters. We got to keep voters out of this. We remove Donald Trump from the ballot in Maine and Colorado. We remove RFK Jr. in the Democrat primary from the ballot so that nobody can run against Biden. We rig the primary elections so that all of the candidates get out of the race at the same time to prevent Bernie Sanders from being ascendant. We rigged the primary in 2016 such that Debbie Wasserman Schultz needs to be chased out on the first day of the convention as some sort of sacrifice for, oh, sorry about that, as we rigged it for Hillary Clinton. They rigged the elections by way of the media. They rigged the elections by the way of social media. They rigged the elections by importing illegal aliens by the millions and padding the numbers in the Electoral College.
Don't forget Clyburn. I don't know if did you mention moving the primary to South Carolina to benefit Joe Biden to get others out. Remember that, moving up the primary dates. This is none of this stuff is new, Vince, but your media distortion field is correct. And I got about a few minutes left here, but I wanted the audience here to think about it in terms of what's happening right now with the DHS shutdown. Clearly the fault of the Democrats. Clearly the Republicans are going to vote on a package to open up the government. They keep introducing it. The Democrats won't get on board. The media, if it was the inverse and the Republicans were blocking it and there was a Democrat president, would be at the airport every day showing these long lines and constantly showing images of Republicans with the Republicans did it. But now they blame it on government in general. This is the process all broken. It's like the distortion field. You come away with the perception that this is a government problem, which it is, but it's a Democrat governance problem. It's not a Republican problem.
And they want to prejudice your understanding of reality. That's the point that you're making. And I want to give a compliment to the president. I did this on our program this morning. It is a masterstroke for him to send ICE to the airports for two big reasons. He sends ICE to the airports, and they actually have the effect of alleviating the traffic. So that's already worked. The CNN had cameras in Atlanta yesterday, and they were shocked. Their mouths were agape at the fact that the lines are actually dropping down meaningfully. The general manager of the airport just told CBS that it's the best it's been in a very long time. It's hilarious. Part two, here's the other great reason I think that ICE is there and why President Trump is a brilliant man. Public relations. The media has demonized ICE at unbelievable levels. In fact, such dangerous levels.
Right.
They've been subjected to thousands of percentage increases in assaults, death threats, and assassination attempts. We've seen multiple assassination attempts on ICE officers, including in Texas. Remember that sniper trying to shoot through a vehicle to kill ICE agents, killed a couple of illegals instead. And now all of that happening because the media has been involved in whipping people into a frenzy about ICE, accusing them of being Nazis, brown shirts. But then look what happened. ICE is at the airport now. They're handing out water bottles. They're helping people in line. In fact, some ICE agents are being placeholders. They're standing in line so people can go to the bathroom and then come back and take the spot back. ICE is human. These guys that wear the badge, law enforcement, who are serving our country right now, these are humans who are doing good, wholesome jobs for our country. And now the American public's getting to see them up close. They get to do this as they travel. They're seeing these ICE agents. This is a coup by President Trump. He's taken something miserable that the left has created and turned it into something wholesome that he once again has rescued.
That's great analysis there, Vince. If you want more of that, you can always check him out at 8 a.m. Eastern time every single morning. Rumble.com/Vince, part of the whole operation we have here because we love his content. Hey, Vince, thanks a lot for coming on. I'll see you on your radio show next Wednesday. You'll be back the following week, so you'll see Dan and Vince or hear Dan and Vince every Wednesday from this point on. Really appreciate it, Vince. Thanks for your time today.
Dude, it's such a blast to do this with you. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you, man.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. It's the first of many, folks. Vince Coglianese. Don't miss him every morning, 8 a.m. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to download the Rumble app. Please, we would love for you to download the free Rumble app or on the web, go to rumble.com/Bongino. You'll arrive at the same place, rumble.com, where my show is exclusive on video. It is absolutely free. Just click that follow button, rumble.com/Bongino or the Rumble app. Go live every day with us at 10 a.m. Join the chat. I tend to bounce in there and say hello to some folks. 10 a.m. Eastern time, rumble.com/Bongino. I will see you back here tomorrow.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania,
Host of Vince.
host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here
On the Bongino Report channel.
live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.